Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to a Tuesday live stream. Now, you know we normally do a Monday live stream and a Wednesday live stream, but as your special Easter treat, we're doing a little Tuesday one as well. It's only going to last for 30 minutes. So, what I would suggest is wherever you're watching this, if you're watching this on the YouTubes, if you're watching this on the Gettrs, wherever you're watching it anyway, you are most welcome to drop your comments and let us know what you think. Hello to Chris Davies, by the way. And just the usual routine for me, of course. Don't forget the daily podcasts. Links below. Get them down there. You can support the platform by buying me a coffee. The link is below so we can get information. Don't forget our sponsors, notingbut.co.uk. Yes, you can get your immunity and it doesn't have to come at the end of a needle. Oh, imagine that. Who knew? So anyway, that's pretty much where we are. So without further ado, let me bring on my guest this evening. And he hails from the same part of the world as me. And his name is Pat Haughey. Hi, Pat.
Hello, David. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Good to see you.
You?
I hope I can see the sun is still shining. Pat, I can see it through your window there. So that, as you can see, it's darkness around me, but I'm glad the sun's shining in you. So listen, Pat, we've got a short period of time, and I know you've got so much stuff that you want to get through, and as is always the way, unfortunately, there's never enough time to do everything. But I think we can give people, Pat, a taste or at least a sense of the big concerns that you have, which are, and as I say, we're going to talk about this in a little detail now, folks, with Pat. We're going to talk about, I suppose you could call some of our perennial themes, political chicanery, because we can't trust the politicians, and no sane person can, and major environmental issues, which Pat's going to outline. So we're going to kind of talk about that, and then we're going to bring it all together at the end, because Pat's actually going to be standing in the forthcoming local assembly elections here in Northern Ireland, and that's the agenda for discussion. So Pat, maybe to start off with, let's sort of tackle then the core issues as you that concern you.
Thank you, David. Basically, I'd like to lay out at the start that I'm I'm fully independent, and I don't or not affiliated to anybody else, hence I'm standing as an independent. I basically do a 2 to 2.5 hour presentation on this, so this is really much a very synopsis-sized version of a bite-sized version of it. It's based on years of research sourced from reliable sources, and you'll not find what I say anywhere on any government website. Basically, what I found out was that the general run of my presentation is there's a project in Greencastle, a gold mine in Greencastle, which they decided to have the second largest cyanide processing plant in Western Europe. It's a planning permission stage at this moment in time. On research, it's discovered that this is part of a much bigger scale thing where 25% of the north of Ireland is under precious metals and mining exploration licenses, with 28% of the south under the same. And when we go into more detail like that there, we further discovered that our government has passed legislation for us to accept higher activity radioactive waste, nuclear waste. And to tie all this together, our politicians have been doing this behind our backs along with their civil service. And it turns out that this past 2 years when they came back, they've actually been allowing or devising policy and legislation to allow Westminster to take over, and essentially Stormont is going to fall by design. That's a nutshell.
That's a yeah, that is a nutshell. Yeah. Well, okay, so let's look at those in a little bit more detail then. So let's kick off with, I mean, the gold mine and the cyanide thing. I mean, that's kind of alarmed. I wasn't aware of any of those things, Pat. So what's the story there, and where's this happening? Oh, we've got hello from East Tennessee. Says Leslie. Hi, Leslie. Good to see you in the stream. Yeah, let's talk about the gold mines and the cyanide business. Oh, hang on,
Yes.
Pat. We're also joined by someone from Hawaii. I told you this is an international audience you're speaking to. So tell them all about the gold mines and the cyanide plant.
Yeah, well, the gold mine started off, there's a company called Delradian Resources, came over here in 2009. They just didn't actually come over here. They're incentivized to come over here with a £325,000 invest in a grant. They're welcomed by all the political parties. And also they were, and from then they've been working with the civil service department there, trying to get this gold mine through. In 2016, they announced that they were going to have the second largest cyanide processing plant in Western Europe, situated in the Sperns. They're going to be using two. Sorry.
Yeah. So how does that work? So how did they get from gold to cyanide? I mean, that's a big jump.
No. In terms of gold mining, this is technically low-grade gold, and essentially the cheapest and the most efficient way to do this is to treat it or process it through the use of cyanide.
Right.
And then what they do is they crush the earth, then they use a cyanide float, and the gold comes out from that there. It's a complicated process there, but halfway through the process there, they decided to voluntarily drop the cyanide because they're getting probably a load of objections. But the problem with that is the cyanide processing plant will inevitably come back. And that's, there's no doubt. But if I give you some information regarding what the plan proposed here.
Yep, go ahead.
Basically, what they want to do here is to put the cyanide processing, gold mining on top of a mountain. It's going to be in an area of outstanding natural beauty, 300 meters above sea level. It's going to be 1,200 meters from a school, and it's going to be straddling two rivers, the Owen Ray and the Owen Calloo. And those rivers there house freshwater pearl mussels. So that proves how clean the water is.
Right. Yep.
They hope to be operational 365 days a year, 24/7. They're going to be blasting 1,700 tons of rock per day, 2 blasts, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and 2 charges each time with 25 blasts each time, almost 100 charges each day. The area they're going to be doing it is one of the highest radon in the UK. Radon is also daughter of uranium-238, and the deeper you go, the more chance you are finding uranium. There's also a seam of uranium there from South Donegal to Fintona. And the further you go down deep, the higher the levels of radon and uranium would be. And this is a thing called naturally occurring radioactive material. And that's important for the nuclear waste facility because that's what they're going to be putting that into.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Basically, NI water doesn't test for heavy metals such as lead. We're not seen as a precious metal and minerals region. So there's no testing of this here. There was no overall environmental strategy done there to say this is right. Basically, this is seen as a regional significant project. What I'm talking about is one mine on 987 hectares here. All that I've said to date. Delradian has licenses for 122,000 hectares. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And not only that, they're only talking about mining of gold, silver, and copper. However, they've recently announced that they're actually looking for 50 different minerals. So this is just touching the tip of the iceberg. The other thing is there's 1,200 meters away, there's explosives twice a day. It really is very, very bad. It's also, this area is also high, or this particular seam is also high, a thing called arsenic. And that was found through a Freedom of Information request where InvestNA were actually seeking investment from Chinese investors to take our resources into mine and potential in Northern Ireland. Right. And strangely, the Chinese bank that they went to was aware of what we were, and they said that because of such a high arsenic content, over 8%, Chinese investors don't invest in areas where there's 0.5% or greater than 5.5%. So they offered a way of smelting this. Right. Again, the radon is very important there, like that. So basically, this particular one gold mine is going to be 700 meters below sea level. And we're level 5 on the water vulnerability table 2, which is really bad.
Right.
So basically, that's largely the gold mine as such. The other thing with the gold mine is we don't benefit from any of the money from it because gold isn't taxed. The only people that benefit there will be the Crown Estates and the Deradian investors. The Crown Estates gets 4% of all value. Nothing goes to education, nothing goes to our health, nothing goes to our social services. The other thing that came to fruition, I'll not go into the story now, is the public purse will be paying for all policing costs for the explosives. And there's an article showing that could be up to, for this one mine, £318 million. So not alone are we destroying the environment, we're also paying for the policing of it.
Is that because it's because of the dangers of explosives, Pat, that they have to take extra security measures? Is that why? Because that's
yes, that was the reason. There was actually another gold mine in Omaha, Galantis, and they've been operating for 15 years. They shouldn't have been in there, but they're in here anyway. But over that period of time, they were doing some explosives, and they PSNI charged them £150,000. They paid that. When Deradian came, you'd have thought, no, this is a Canadian company. They'd have lots of experience in mining. They actually had nothing. There was no experience whatsoever, no experience in the use of cyanide there. They come in here to mine the second and run the second largest cyanide processing plant in Western Europe. But in doing that, they built a small exploratory tunnel about 1.7, 1.8 kilometers. And during that time, they used that £440,000 worth of policing costs. They refused to pay it. And after they refused to pay it, eventually the police, PSNI, waived Galantis, gave that money back, and they waived the £440,000. But as you say, this is purely for because of explosive and because of the troubles as such what it is. But it's an explosive thing. Whereas sand and gravel, because they pay aggregate tax, like £2 a ton, they already cover the costs. So there'll be no charge for this particular company either.
That's amazing. Yeah. So obviously that's going to gouge a massive area, Pat, in the heart of an area of outstanding natural beauty. I mean, where are all the other environmentalist lobby in this one? Why are they not protesting?
Well, that's a good question. There are local environmental lobbyists. I've seen today the Green Party, for instance, they put up a post there saying they're against the thing, but really it's not them. It's only the local girl. There's a girl there, Susan Glass, and there's a few other people there locally that are objecting to it. But if you go to the Green Party NI, you'll see nothing about this here in their website. You'll not see anybody outside, Claire Billy outside protesting or anything like that. All the political parties are fully supportive of this, every one of them. And that's why I'm standing up against this here. And that's why I had to stand in an election to make people aware, plus of the nuclear waste and plus the storm is going to fall by design.
Let's talk about the nuclear waste, because that's a pretty massive thing that we talked about there. I mean, just tell us. So, what's the story with the nuclear waste then?
Well, before we go into the nuclear waste, I just want to go on to the other thing there. This is the tip of the icebergs in terms of gold mining. Deradian themselves have identified 11 different gold hotspots. So all I've been talking about there was just the one mine. Let's say it's going to devastate that. And by the way, what they intended to use, just for curiosity, or they intended to use, I think it's 380,000 litres of water per day. They were going to have enough electricity for 12,300 homes. They were going to use 3.3 million litres of diesel. In terms of the water and the electricity, because they're a commercial customer, and if there's blackouts in the future, they get priority. And the domestic people are left without electricity or water. The other thing, in terms of precious metal and minerals, whenever they first came over here, they talked about this cyanide processing plant. They said this cyanide processing plant was going to be costing 192 million Canadian dollars. They went through the whole process. 18 months down the line, they dropped it. Basically, it's a project splitting exercise to get it through planning, in my opinion. But they dropped it. That's going to come back again, in my opinion, because the whole area is talking about Deradian, as it's called, a Deradian belt from Galway right through up to the north of Ireland into Scotland. And that's a Deradian belt. They will, in my opinion, if there's not them, somebody will be processing gold through cyanide. So this is just the tip of the iceberg like this here. 25% of the north of Ireland is under prospecting, minerals and exploration licenses. They're going to be looking at gold, silver, copper, thorium, lithium, and also uranium. As I said before, there's a seam of uranium. Ian Paisley and Enoch Powell tried to open the uranium mines in Fenton in 1969 and couldn't because of the troubles. They tried again in the 1980s, they couldn't because of the troubles. This will happen if this is allowed to go ahead. So, and I say 28% of the South is under prospecting and minerals license as well, and nobody knows about it as well. Each year, how did they find out about this? Well, GSNA, Geological Service NI, did a thing called the TELUS survey. And they surveyed the whole area, and they identified where all the minerals were. And the same happened down the south. What they do is they go to a conference. GSNA, our government, and our representatives from the north here and the south go to a conference called the Prospector Developers Association of Canada. It's the largest one in the world. 30,000 people go to it each year. And basically, they have a stand there saying Ireland is open for business. And they're bringing all them in here to take our resources from us. That was never passed by the Assembly. And I don't understand how they can be doing this.
I mean, as somebody points out in the stream, Pat, John Gleason says, it's a bit like the economic rape of Africa's mineral and resources, which obviously China's been doing over in Africa. Looks like we're getting the same treatment here then. It's a strange one, yeah. Carry on.
Not only are we getting the same treatment here, as I said earlier on, Invest NA was writing to a Chinese bank to encourage investment in our resources here. What they've done in Africa, what they've done in South America, what they've done in Australia, they're planning to do it here with the support of our government. Why is that? After having already invested in incentivized them to come here for a tune of £325,000, supported by all the politicians.
Okay.
The other thing what this ties into there is I'll leave it to another night about the climate change bills there, because that's the link. If you want to talk about the nuclear waste.
Let's do the nuclear waste, because I think people need to understand that.
Well, in the UK, they've decided the safest, most effective way to store nuclear waste is underground in a thing called a geological disposal facility. What they did there was then in the early 2000s, they offered this out to all the communities. They said we need community development or community involvement and participation. So they identified 3 communities. The first year they were going to give them £2.5 million and £1 million every the year after. After a while, they decided the communities in England, one of them was Cumbria, they decided, no, we don't want anything to do with this. The next thing we heard was in 2014, there was a white paper. And that white paper was called Implementing Geological Disposal, July 2014. It was written by a guy called Edward Davey. And basically what it says is the UK government remains committed to geological disposal as the right policy for long-term, safe and secure management of higher activity radioactive waste. Basically, they have done all this research and this is the safest, most effective way forward. At that particular time, they linked it to low carbon electricity, low carbon nuclear electricity. So then the next thing they asked, this is a devolved decision. So they asked, what are we going to do? And on basically page 10 of this there, it outlines everything. Scotland says we're happy with the near surface level. So we will support it, but we don't want anything to do with it. Wales at the time said we will support it as well. And in 2019, they said we don't want anything to do with it. So really the question here is, they've agreed that it's the safest, the most effective way to store it. The question is only going to be, where is it going to be? Northern Ireland Executive says we will accept higher activity radioactive waste. Now, the strange thing is that you'd be thinking there, maybe they didn't really understand why this came about. There's something wrong. Maybe they're just asked and they didn't understand. But then when you go to the paper and it's written in the paper 1.20, this white paper is jointly issued by the UK government and the Northern Ireland Executive. We were authors of it. We designed it, we wrote it, and whatever, we agreed to it.
Well, that would have been the civil service, wouldn't it? That would have been the civil service drafting that.
It's a white paper, but it had to be done at Privy Council. It was never talked about in the Assembly. This is legislative. So this cannot just be done by the civil service by any means. In 2015, in 2015, the UK government decided then this is now a national strategic infrastructure project. They said then, we don't need the communities to be involved. All we need now is one large landowner and the environmental agency to oversee it.
Okay.
Strangely, in November 2021, the UK created a department called the Office for Environmental Protection. And when you go into the climate change debate, that we had our climate change debate here, it was discovered that the Office for Environmental Protection would become the environmental oversight body here if allowed so by the Assembly. That was passed by our Assembly on the 22nd of February 2022. So that body now is in charge and is set up from Westminster. Everything is done, has been set up from Westminster to do this.
Okay. Yeah. So it bypasses local political
Yes.
Oversight, I suppose. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what is a GDF? People are thinking there maybe a GDF is you're going to dig a hole for the gold and then you're going to dump it in. Absolutely not. A GDF has to be a virgin site. The footprint of it is only 1 kilometre square. It goes down between 200 metres and 1,000 metres deep. It's 4.4 kilometres long on the ground by 2.6 kilometres. These are standalone GDFs, and that's for all the UK's high activity radioactive waste, which is 250,000 tonnes or 650,000 cubic metres. With Brexit, there's a thing called the Euratom Treaty, and the Euratom Treaty said up until that any country that produces nuclear power and its nuclear waste, the waste must be disposed of within that country. With Brexit, the Euratom Treaty was abolished. There was no need for it. It wasn't brought across. And that means that they can now go to America, Australia, wherever there's nuclear power and bring it in here. This, to me, will be the dumping ground for all the nuclear waste. And then when you look at all the infrastructure that's set up, in terms of the north-south interconnector and why it's coming over to Dungannon, up through the Midlands as opposed to come along the motorway, it doesn't make much sense. They're chatting. I can go into a lot of details there about the Warren Point being dredged and the Southern Relief Road coming on here, £105 million. Loads of stuff there. Boris was talking about the tunnel and the bridge, which in my mind has to happen because of this. They try to poo-poo it by saying that this cost will be astronomical, but if you look at the cost of the Channel Tunnel, it's not. Then they start talking about in December 2021 about bringing back the railroads. After taking them out in the 1960s, they're going to bring them there, a railroad from Newry to Omagh. Isn't that convenient? So all these things are all tallied up, and I say I can go into a lot more detail, but I just don't have the time at this moment.
The time, no.
But just based on you're telling me. The other thing is with nuclear waste. Once there's nuclear waste here, the likelihood was to be nuclear power. A couple of years ago, Boris announced that rather than having the large-scale nuclear power plants, we're going to have small modular reactors. They're going to be cost between £2 and £6 billion each. I can envisage them being here as well, hence the north-south interconnector as well.
That would make sense, wouldn't it? Because
absolutely,
the infrastructure is being built up for it. So yeah, I guess
everything's been built up, and now Ireland itself, south of Ireland, there being a nuclear-free zone, there's professors now talking about we need to open the debate on small modular reactors. I've got evidence from that there too. This is all the dots are joined here now. There's no doubt about this in my mind.
Yeah. So you could actually see, Pat, these small modular nuclear reactors. Maybe one in the south, one in the north, something like that.
There could be several. I don't know, but the other thing is there, and I don't want to touch on this. Fully fits into the climate change bill, and the reason the climate change bill was passed, because firstly, the climate change bill, what it did as well is that it basically is the total decimation of farming. No question. That was done in the KPMG report, and they have all agreed with us. So no matter what they said now there, this is a decimation of farm. But the other thing what nobody's talking about, David, is what we're talking about is everybody has to go to renewables. You have to go to wind or sun, solar. The thing about that is they need special precious metals and minerals. So you need the lithium, the cobalt, and whatever like this. But with sustainable development and Agenda 21 and 2030, that should be done locally. They're opening the door to mine that here. So this is all part of it. The other thing what they're opening the door to is they've now declared that nuclear power is low carbon and green.
That they have, yeah.
This is the other thing there. So everything is tying in here, and I didn't want to touch on that there, but that's what it is. But the key here is knowing all that there. Then the next thing is knowing that Stormont, this past 2 years, have pushed through a number of bills and departments that allows Westminster to take control. Stormont is going to fall by design without a shadow of a doubt. And that started with, pardon?
Pat, is that because they don't want to have their fingerprints over it, do you think?
Correct. In my opinion, it is.
Yeah.
They cannot be seen to do it. That's why there's no mention of any of this whatsoever. And that's one of the reasons I'm standing, because I have to try and expose that. I would feel guilty for the rest of my life if I didn't try and make people aware of it. And I thought this is the best opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
As I say, if people get a chance to go to the presentation I have in the Cookstown on the 27th, and I think Maherfeld on the 26th, and the Terrace and the Terrace on the 26th, and the Royal Hotel on the 27th, please do, because it'll be very informative. In terms of what happened in 2018, whenever the Assembly was down, Karen Bradley went over to London under emergency powers to bring in, or to give civil service more power than they ever had. John Larkin went over after, then tried to do that to get that power enforced. Thankfully, the Supreme Court said no, it has to be tested in law. July 2020, the Functions Bill was passed, allowing one MLA complete control to make decisions without having to go to the Assembly. Then in March 2020, the UK Internal Markets Bill happened. And basically that allowed sections of the Internal Market Bill, notably Section 46, create a mechanism for the UK government to spend money in areas related to infrastructure that are clearly devolved to Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, and without any required engagement with the devolved governments. They can invest money anywhere they want without even talking about to the devolved governments. Then there's another department. There's a department sent in here called the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. That was put in March 2021. And basically, it is brought in by Conor Murphy and Diane Dodds. And what that department is, it will sit outside the programme for government. There won't be any executive oversight. There won't be any assembly scrutiny or accountability. This is what Nicola Mullen said, pretending she's against it. But because that is the Department of Housing, Communities and Local Development, you think nothing of it until you discover that that particular department was the department over in England and parts of South Wales that actually oversaw the mining, the precious metal and minerals mining. So they brought the department to sit in Belfast that oversaw the mining and is here now. This is by no coincidence. This is all part of it. And then if you look at what happened in terms of the legal things, Branton Lewis is putting legislation through to make Stormont crisis-proof. The next stage is that we have an infrastructure commissioner, which is now, they call it a game changer, and is overseen by the department, for instance, bodies such as the Confederation of British Industry, the Centre of Competitiveness, the Institute of Directors, and the Northern Ireland Chamber of Commerce. These are the ones that are meant to push through planning projects. These are people that are only interested in employment, nothing to do with the environment. They called this a game changer at the time. The next thing here is there's an interesting case where the Society of the Protection of Unborn Children was seeking a judicial review because whenever Sinn Féin and the SDLP went over to Westminster to seek the abortion service, and Branton Lewis put them in, but he put them in later on, he allowed it, passed it. There was a case taken at a particular time by the Society of the Protection of Unborn Children. What that said, and this is very, very important, and this is how they created the precedent. Basically, the precedent was fundamental constitutional reality is that Parliament retains its supremacy and can legislate in the devolved sphere. They went on to say, once a decision is made in the House of Commons, then made in the House of Lords, the decision is made. They went on further to say that was recessed for a week, and what they done was they found Branton Lewis guilty because he didn't act quick enough. So not only once it's made in the House of Commons and the House of Lords, it has to be acted upon immediately. This is what we done. And then the passed another bill there, Nicola Mullen passed the North-South Interconnector, in 2020 through a tweet. It was taken to court. There's a flaw in the thing, and the judge said that he recognised the law was broken, but they upheld the decision. So she can, as a function, as the Minister of Infrastructure, can make decisions, even breaking the law, and it's still upheld.
Well, I think, Pat, we're just keeping an eye on the clock here, but I think you've outlined enough there to make us all only too aware of the fact that the political class here and in London are snakes that cannot be trusted, none of them. And that's, I know, why you've put your name forward in these assembly elections, which are held on the 5th of May. So maybe if we just give you the final sort of 60 seconds, tell the people watching this and the people who will watch this on replay, why should they vote for you then? Just summarize your case.
Well, I will be starting off with the people, and I will be exposing what the politicians have done. I've already heard the politicians are coming around to doors saying we're anti-mining, we're anti-nuclear, whatever, but they're not. They've been pushing this from day one. I didn't have to do this. I decided to do this. I had no option to do this, because if I didn't, I'd be feeling guilty. And there's so many people that are now, once they hear it, are supporting us there, and we're getting a groundswell of public opinion for us. And people do want to know. The big key thing I have to say is, when I started looking into the gold mining and all these things, we discovered that all along they've been using green and orange politics to divide us. And this is what they've done all along. And when you actually see what they're doing, this agenda has been worked upon for years, at least from the Good Friday Agreement. Yeah. And this is where it's coming from. Ironically, orange and green politics will be used to bring down Stormont, be it the Northern Ireland Protocol, the legacy issue, the Irish Language Act, or who is going to become First Minister.
Yeah.
This is where we are, and this is where we are. So please, if you get a chance, vote for me in Mid-Ulster, and I will do my utmost to represent you in all aspects that I can.
Well, Pat, I think the people who follow me and watch me and this kind of stuff, we one thing we've all learned is that as Ellie Mack says, she's watching this from Northern Ireland and says, "Thank you so much, Patrick." The classical tactic is to divide and conquer. Oh, politicians love that. They love to divide us. In actual fact, what you're talking about are things, Pat, that go beyond the immediate here and now, but potentially for a very, very long time if they do all this kind of stuff. I don't want Northern Ireland or Ireland to be turned into a nuclear dump. I don't want avaricious politicians to make money on the back of it. We have to think of our own kids and grandkids and stuff. So as Healthy Gut Guru here says, vote Pat Hart. So it's hard for me to top that one. So Pat, I am acutely aware of you get so much data, and we do have a short amount of time.
I had to rush that. I'm sorry. No, I would normally take a lot more time and go into much more detail and discuss.
I totally get that, but I think the people that watch this and will watch this on the Facebooks, on the YouTubes, and the Gettrs and whatnot, you'll understand that just here's a man who's identified serious issues which will have ramifications for millennia to come, not just centuries to come. And that's really the key point. And therefore, I certainly would hope. Pat, have you got a website or somewhere where people could go and look more information?
I've got a Facebook page, Pat Haughey, Independent Mid-Ulster.
Okay.
Now, can I just say one more thing? And this is probably a bombshell to some people there, but I better mention it. Because this GDF, the Geological Disposal Facility, it was passed in 2014, a joint thing, and 2015 was National Strategic Infrastructure Project. If that comes in here, that means there'll be national security, because the half-life of uranium is thousands of years. Yeah. Whenever the parties talk about a united Ireland, it cannot happen from the national perspective because it's already agreed. That is why you heard Mary Lou McDonald talking about a Commonwealth, linking with a Commonwealth, a new Ireland or a shared Ireland. Also, the Unionists have agreed with this as well. This has been agreed in the past. From 2014 on, this is a constitutional issue, in my mind, has already been agreed.
It's interesting. Pat, we're just going to bring up, before we go, here, folks, for those who are on Facebook, here is Pat's page.
Thank you.
And you can go there and you can get more information from Pat. As I say, we have been limited in time this evening, but it's all there. So listen, Pat, wish you every success on the 5th
Thank you,
of May.
David.
I hope it all works out. We certainly need more strong, independent voices and less sheep getting elected. So for the sake of Northern Ireland and everything else, Pat, wish you all the very best, and thank you so much for being here with us this evening. That's it from us for tonight, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in wherever you've been. See lots of different faces and different voices. Thank you for being here with us for this short time on a Tuesday evening, and I will return with a vengeance tomorrow night at my more normal 8 p.m. slot. See you then. Thanks again, Pat, and bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.